It's almost Valentine's Day, so I thought this would be the perfect time to do a pure 12 build for the Oath of Devotion Paladin in Baldur's Gate 3. This is a fun subclass, despite being one of the weaker versions of the Paladin. At the end of the day, it's still a Paladin. Following the ideal of the knight in shining armor, you act with honor and virtue to protect the weak and pursue the greater good. We get Holy Rebuke here, which does 1d4 of radiant damage to an attacker that hits someone with a melee attack, using up both your action and your Channel Oath charge for 2 turns. If I'm being honest, it's not that good. But you know what is good? My new subclass mod would actually fits perfectly around Valentine's Day with the Heartsworn Knight Fighter. Just a quick humble plug here. If you think that the Paladin or the Fighter are fun, definitely check this out. With our Oath of Devotion here, you have tenets that you have to uphold. These are very difficult, like the Oath of the Ancients. It's not very lenient compared to like the Oath of Vengeance. You can actually break your oath within minutes of starting the game if you go after the tieflings and attack them in any capacity with this oath. The tieflings that are holding Lae'zel, that is. There's a lot of ways to break your oath with this one, so unless you're doing a full goody two-shoes good character, you're going to have a hard time, especially if you're playing as Dirge and an evil Dirge. For that, I would actually recommend the Vengeance Paladin or the Oath Breaker. Just stay as an Oath Breaker, but I got pure 12 builds for those, which I'll have linked below. Now, our ability scores are kind of dependent on the weapon that we want to use. I personally like a Dexedin using the Fowler Alluve weapon, scales up dexterity, and it's a weapon you can get in Act 1 and use for the entire game. If you want to go max damage, strength is better. However, this really depends on your own personal playstyle, so I'll recommend going with a high strength if you want to use two-handed weapons for maximizing damage. My preferred way of playing, however, is using high dexterity and using like a finesse-based weapon, which there's plenty of good ones in the game. And if you really want to maximize your damage, you could use Shadow Blade, which will scale up dex or strength. But I think that the stat spread ends up working best. Make sure you got Persuasion there if you're the face of the party. Level 2 gives us one of the best abilities in the entire game, Divine Smite. What's great about this is if we want to be lazy, we can put this on as a reaction so that we can just automatically do this as we attack. This means for the min-maxers out there, if you play as a high half-elf, you can get Booming Blade and apply this on top of it. It's pretty absurd. Our fighting style. Defense typically ends up being the best. I had a lot of arguments in the past with people about this. Great weapon fighting if you want to have max damage on a two-handed weapon build. Dueling if you want to maximize damage with a shield. Defense ends up being the biggest bang for the buck for your back over a course of an entire game. One single point armor class can oftentimes make it so that you're not getting hit a lot of times over the course of a run. So yeah, don't underestimate defense. Dueling and great weapon fighting obviously are fine too. It's personal preference over defense or offense is there. Not going to make or break the build. Now for our spells, I'd recommend always having command. This is a very powerful spell, and there's an item in Act 3, the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, which lets you cast this as a bonus action. I also like in the early game to have Shield of Faith. It's just nice to be able to have a shield on your character, and it's also not a bad idea to have Thunderous Smite. Sometimes a pushback is what you want. It does eat up your bonus action though. Same with Searing Smite. I don't love having these. It's actually probably best to have Bless here. And Divine Favor if you want to really maximize your damage. This is a concentration that'll add an additional 1d4 of radiant damage to your attacks. Level 3 gives us our Oath spell, Sanctuary. Now, Sanctuary is actually pretty good. With this, it makes it so that a teammate or ourselves can't get targeted by attacks. We can still get hit by area of effect ones. It's great for protecting, and especially at level 3, it's amazing. Now, our Channel Oath says we don't really want to use the Holy Rebuke. Sacred Weapon is a lot better. Turning your weapon into a sacred weapon, it has a higher chance of hitting and it emits a bright light. So basically you get light source from this, which is nice to have, but it also gives you your charisma modifier onto your attack rolls. So yeah, we got right now a +3 to attack rolls. Honestly huge in the early game. We also get Turn the Unholy, which you could potentially use if there's a situation which calls for it, but not often would you really be in that situation. We're just going to roll with that there. Sacred Weapon you can actually cast if you know you're getting into a fight, making it great for subsequent playthroughs. And obviously on your first playthrough, you just kind of have to go off the vibes. Level 4 gives us another lay hands charge, which is what we use for our heals. And also Alert, level 4 a neat. First feat, it's the best feat, honestly. +5 initiative. If we can go first, we have burst damage. This means that if, let's say, our teammate, there's someone else in between them in the initiative order, we can go take out that target and then use our other teammate. So this is great as a defensive measure to keep our teammates safe, but also a strong offense wins the game. If you don't like that, an increase to our dexterity, or if you went with strength to that stat, can be nice. I also like the Savage Attacker because this will reroll our smites, which is a huge increase to our overall damage. And honestly, Savage Attacker might be the better choice early on in the game. I like Alert, but it's either one of these would be best. And if you don't like those, then an ability score improvement. Once we get to level 5, we get our extra attack. Big power spike for most classes. We also get Silence. and our level 2 spell slot. So with silence, we basically make it so that a target can't cast spells. Be mindful though that thunder damage everyone gets immunity, so booming blade can't do anything if you have a high elf on your team. And we do get level 2 spells here. I like to have aid, and branding smite's okay, stopping targets from going invisible. There's a couple moments in the game where that can be useful, but Great Water also does the same. Level 6 gives us the Aura of Protection, so we get our Charisma modifier added to a 3-meter radius around us. Not very large, just a head up on that. So you would like to have your team nearby, but this will protect them from things like Fireball, but it makes the enemies more likely to drop Fireballs. So yeah, in actual D&D, if you level up past level 12, you can get an increased range to this, which is nice, but alas, we're in Baldur's Gate 3. You have to be strategic with using that. It's good, but it's hard to use. Aura of Devotion makes so you can't be charmed. Nice. We also get more spells here. There's nothing super necessary for us to prepare other than command, and a lot of our spell slots end up going to Divine Smites. We'll then take for our second feat, since we already took Savage Attacker, we're going to go with the Alert feat, or we can increase our Charisma or Dexterity again there, depending on if we want to have better attack rolls or spell casting. Level 9 gives us Remove Curse and Beacon of Hope. It's okay. If you have another healer on the team, this can be nice-ish because it makes it so that everyone receives maximum healing. It also gives you advantage on wisdom saving throws, which is actually very nice. It's not often that I set this up, however, being able to resist a wisdom save is really good, especially since they are some of the worst. Now, Revivify is a nice spell to have added on there. Elemental Weapon can be fun to play around with. It's a concentration, but you can hold that indefinitely. And then we also got things like the Blinding Smite, which is okay to take as well. But again, our smites are going to be mostly just Divine Smites. That's really the best choice. Level 10 gives us our Aura of Courage, cannot be frightened or charmed now, so we have great defenses. Level 11 gives us the improved Divine Smite. So this is where things get really fun, because we're always dealing radiant damage with our melee attacks now. You automatically get a 1d8. So this means that if we have Radiating Orb gear, we can actually do quite a bit of good for the team. However, it's better left on your Cleric for most situations because Spirit Guardian is just so good. And we'll leave the prepared spells as such. Level 12 is the final level here. So again, spells that are really Divine Smite and Command. You can obviously use some of these other ones like Thunder Smite on occasion. Bless will be good. Shield of Faith. But yeah, that's kind of the vibe that we got. Paladin has 2 really good spells and a lot of other bad ones. Now for our final feat here, an ability score improvement on our Charisma will give us a better Aura of Protection and a little bit better spell casting and command. Dexterity will give us better weapon attack rolls. I do want to mention the Lucky feat because this will give you luck points, which lets you reroll attack rolls, ability checks, saving throws, and enemies' attack rolls onto your characters without using up your bonus or your reaction at all. So this is a really good defensive ability. It's kind of underrated. If you're going with a 2-weapon, Great Weapon Master is one of the best, getting a +10 to damage at a -5 to the attack rolls. A little bit harder to hit with your attacks, but it's really good because you can also get a bonus action attack as well when you take it to target. And unless you're using the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, we don't really have a super necessary bonus action. Warcast would be good if you really wanted to hold one of your concentrations and get a reaction attack. And also Tough can give you a bit of health, or even Sentinel is a decent choice. Polearm Master is okay. My choice is honestly going with the Charisma increase. Having a little bit of spell casting is nice. Mostly too because it's going to help boost up our teammates here, so it's good. Now do you see Shadowheart behind me? She's actually not affected by my Aura Protection. Now she is. So yeah, you can see there the range is actually not that large at all. 3 meters. Just be mindful of that while you're playing, and you can always check your statuses here. And if you're wondering about the armor mod, this is the Knight of the Lunar Eclipse armor here by AES Reaper. It looks so cool. Now for base game gear, we're actually blessed because a lot of stuff we can use from actually the start of the game. Adamantine Scaled Mail, obviously this is a little bit later in Act 1, but this is something you can actually carry on you to the end game because it's just so good at protecting, and it applies Reeling, which will protect your team by reducing the enemy's armor or attack rolls. So you basically have an entire team buff on your armor class. Now, Armor Persistence is going to be the best late game armor. This is just going to give you Blade Ward and Resistance, which is honestly incredible. Armor of Agility is another good choice, especially if you went with a Dex-based Paladin, because you're going to have the same amount of armor class here. Unless you went with a Dex increase, then it'll be more. Helldusk Armor, obviously, just kind of a quick mention there. It is the strongest armor in the game. And an underrated pick is a Dwarven Splint Mail. However, I like to go with the Armor Persistence or the Armor of Agility into the mid-late game. I also have the Cloak Protection. Now, there's a couple items that, actually, this one is really good on the Paladin, because when we hit a target with our Smite, and even Booming Blade if you play a high half-elf, or a high elf, you get Arcane Acuity, so a +2 to our spell save DC, which means that we can basically get a +10 and land all of our spells like command. This is even better when we have the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel. It lets us cast our enchantment and illusion spells as a bonus action. Command is an enchantment spell. It also lets you cast Silence as an illusion spell, but getting a bonus action command is really good. This is a spell that's super underrated because it does not use your concentration whatsoever, and it just makes enemies walk towards you or fall prone. So I like that, but an alternative is the Helmet of Arcane Acuity, which is kind of the same thing, just a little bit different requirements. You just have to do a weapon attack. It's a lot easier than doing the cantrip or spell attack. Shadow Blade attacks, just basic attacks, actually count for this too, so that's something to consider. The Helm of Baldur, obviously a very powerful helmet too, because this just gives you a plethora of benefits in the late game. But early game, the Haste Helmet, that extra movement speed means that we're able to hit people with our smites a little bit more freely. And another actually good one once we get to Act 3 is the Birthright, which will actually impact our aura protection. Now, I also got the Disintegrating Nightwalkers Act 1 item that's really nice to have for the mobility it brings. The Helldux Boots are the late game equivalent of that, so both of these are good. I mentioned the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, but since we have the Sacred Weapon that we can light up our weapon, this gives us illumination to get additional radiant damage with the Callous Glow Ring. So just a flat of 2 radiant damage extra. It's nice. You could also use the Acid Ring too if you wanted to, or even the Ring of Protection. It's a nice boost to the armor class. I got the Amulet of Greater Health there just for more health, but honestly, your personal preference. The Periapta Wound Closure will give you maximized healing, which is really nice. I also threw on the Hellrider Longbow. There's also the Darkfire Longbow, which gives you resistance to fire and cold damage. This gives you a +3 to initiative. Both are good. I also have the Viconia's Walking Fortress here and Valor Alluve. This is a weapon that's really nice in the early game because it gives you a buff or a debuff depending on what the team needs. The Shriek will also make the target take a 1d4 of thunder damage, which is nice, whereas Singing will give your team a bonus to saving throws and attack rolls. For the strength fans out there, Baldur's Giant Slayer is one of the best, obviously, a strong weapon. Corpse Grinder is also fun. I like the weapon attack, and it gets additional thunder damage on its attacks. You can buff up with the Drake Throat Glaive and have a teammate put this on your bow or your melee attack for additional elemental damage. The also a good choice for early game weapons is the Knife of the Undermountain King. Extremely powerful blade. Nyrulna is honestly not bad, and you can kind of be silly and do a throwing build if you really wanted to. Not that I would recommend it, but it's an option. And the last recommendation, this is actually a really good one with the Periapta Wound Closure because it gives you a 1d6 of healing back. The Periapta Wound Closure means that you always get 6 healing per attack, meaning you're pretty tanky. The secret option here is the Shadowblade Ring. This does require you to do the Arabella questline, but I can guarantee you that this is definitely worth it because no weapon in the game has a 2d8 of damage, let alone a 2d8 of damage that can easily be doubled. I get grilled if I don't include this, and especially for the Devotion Paladin, which is honestly not that good, this does improve it because Sacred Weapon isn't really anything to call home about when the Vengeance Paladin can get advantage on every single attack roll for all turns, where the Vengeance Paladin doesn't need this. Shadowblade can actually give you advantage on all your attack rolls, so yeah, we're making up for the Devotion's weaknesses with an item and something that is in the game without cheating. The Ring of Free Action is another nice ring though, because this basically makes it so you can't be like restrained or slowed down by difficult terrain. The Ring of Arcane Synergy is good if you have Booming Blade, because this will add a charisma modifier to our weapon attacks, which is actually pretty devastating. And I also want to mention you could do a single level dip into the Hexblade Warlock. That's probably the best choice, but people like these pure 12 builds, so I do them. And Sacred Weapon looks pretty cool on Shadowblade. You get that purple glow, and then it's still yellow there. Now, one thing I do want to mention is you can turn on your smites for reactions for smites so that we can automatically use these as we do our attacks. So you don't have to go and click smite every time that you want to activate one. You can just go ahead with an attack here, and you're going to get that divine smite damage added on top. So that can just be nice if you want to be lazy, but you can also just easy enough apply what type of divine smite. Sometimes you want to use a specific spell slot to take out a target. This one I likely need to level 2 to be able to take them out. Perfect, we got it. Also, you saw there, they took a bit of radiant damage and our psychic damage. If you have the Lithid ability drain, or even, I should say Call the Weak will actually proc the radiant damage too, which is really silly. I have haste on my character to show off this build, so that's why I'm able to move again here. That was enough to be able to finish them off perfect. The Paladin really is a Divine Smite bot, I'll be honest. It's one of the best things that you can do with your turns, is just go around Divine Smiting everyone. And sometimes you want to use your higher level spell slots, sometimes you don't. We used up all of our attacks. We had 2 attacks per action, but we still have our bonus action, and the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel lets us do a version of command here, which 95% hit chance, because we got our spell save DC boosted up by using the Gloves of the Battle Mage's Power. That gives us a +8 to our spell save DC, which is now 24. So we're actually much more likely to land our spells here, which is incredible. I like to use command approach just so that they walk towards you so we don't... Oh, I forgot to upcast that. I wanted to upcast it to level 3 so we'd hit everyone, but this one has counterspell, so I didn't want them acting. And don't forget to use your auras, because, yeah, they are permanent, but you may not have them active after respecking. The nice thing with command approach is it makes the enemies walk right towards you so that we can just get right in their face and divine smite them. Nice and easy, the way I like it. Now, yeah, again, we are likely going to be using divine smite for pretty much every attack that we do, just because unless you have booming blade, that's really your best action to do. So yeah, use it often. It's just a powerful tool just to clear the board, basically. Now, I don't want to burn through my spell slots too much, so you can also use a bow. That's another nice thing about this class, is it does have other capabilities. I was able to hit multiple and actually break a concentration and add additional radiant damage on top. But the trick here is we now got our command approach, and we only have level 3 spell slots, so I can't botch that. This is the target that I was worried about, 75% hit chance. I want to do it on all these targets back here and hope that we landed all. We did. Which is nice because now they walk to us. If you have someone with Spirit Guardians, even better. They're then going to take damage. And we have them all up in our face. If you got Mind Blast, this is a perfect time to use it because you can hit multiple of them. But I'm just going to go with a good old-fashioned Divine Smite. Just take them out by one by one. Wow, that was a lot of damage. And again, we're re-rolling our damage dice. So I had 88 of Radiant damage, got re-rolled to 50, plus 2 Callous Glow Ring. Our 48 of Psychic damage got re-rolled, plus 8 Strength modifier from a Strength Potion, equals 30, and then Vulnerability for double damage. That's insane. 125 damage. That's crazy. And this is like the improved Divine Smite, just adding damage. It gets a critical hit improvement, so it's a 2d8 at that point. If we had the Crater Flesh gloves on, that would have been an additional 2d6 of force damage on that crit. We would have like absolutely just annihilated them. Pretty crazy what you can do with builds. 40 damage. Yeah, that was enough to finish them off. Perfect. We are running out of our smites. I don't have the reaction on, so I don't want to like burn through them. I typically leave the level 3 smite spell slot off if I'm running a pure paladin, just because you're going to run through those way too quickly, but you saw it there. Despite being the weakest paladin subclass, it's a paladin. It's extremely powerful. So, also, just want to briefly mention again, my Heartsworn Knight Fighter. So if you like Devotion, this is the theme of this build. It comes with its own unique armor sets here, 9 different summons, and unique spells and abilities. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this build. If you did, please hit the subscribe button below. Have yourself a great day, and we'll catch you all in the next video.